Yeah.
How did it come about?
Lots of different strands all came together. Basically, I work with Warner Brothers that work with DC. They wanted me to do something. I can't do superheroes. I don't really understand them. Superpowers, I don't get it as a drama thing. It's like magic. Like, I don't get Gandalf. Like, why doesn't he just fix shit? Like, then it became, all right, how do you tell a story? Gotham to me was the central character. It's for me, it's New York in the 70s. It's scary and sexy. It's dark but glamorous. It's the place your dad runs off to with another woman. It's the place where you get mugged, you lose your virginity, your first big party, that sort of thing. The streets, all of that fed into it. And then, all right, how do you tell a story about that without getting into costumes? If Gordon was the detective, the rookie detective that investigated the Wayne murders, that's an excellent starting point that everyone would understand and go, oh yeah, I get it. That puts two kind of elements together very early on. And then you get to tell Bruce Wayne as a teenager, which must be fascinating. And you get to tell Penguin as a young man, Joker as a young man, Poison Ivy as a little girl, Catwoman as a little girl. That's a great idea. It's an idea I then realized has been kind of variations on it have been thought of many, many times. And that's sort of the beautiful thing about this world is it is genuine popular mythology. You can't come up with an original idea in the Batman universe that someone hasn't already done, which means that the pressure is off. There's both a world that everyone understands and has expectations about, but you can also play with it and create new myth without betraying the old myth. So you can tell history without lying. Normally you're warping something or bending the truth. Here, everyone owns the truth, and so it's a beautiful place to write.
Which character do you think is going to surprise everyone?
I think surprise in terms of wow. Robin Lord Taylor as Penguin. Penguin is the first sort of supervillain, arch villain that you see in the show, and he brings it so strong, as if he was born to play that part, and attacks it with such elegance and venom. People will be, I don't know, surprised, but he really knocks it out of the park. It's great to watch.
So you mentioned the 70s. Is this set in a specific time period? Is it set back in the 70s, or is it a non-specific?
No, I mean, the other beautiful thing about the DC universe is it's always yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It's a timeless universe. But if Batman is today, or if, say, the last Batman is tomorrow, then this world, it's the past, but it's everybody's past. So it's the past if you're 18. Like, people younger than me don't remember when you didn't have cell phones or computers. It's hard for me to remember. So the cell phones, but the cars are 1960s, the buildings are 1930s. So that it's sort of a dream world when you dream of the past. You don't go, 1986. You dream, your mother's there and she's 25, but there's someone who couldn't possibly have been there until 20 years later. So you get a sort of mashup of different periods, which is great fun to shoot, and it's great fun to art direct, and it also allows you to, anything that works, you can use, because you don't have to say, well, they didn't have, computers or death rays. If we wanted put in a death ray, we'll put in a death ray.
Does that mean
not for a while?
With some of the younger characters you mentioned, Bruce Wayne, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, during the course of the series, will we see them at different ages? I know they're young now, but
the intention now is to sort of age naturally, as David and Cameron go. That's what we'll see. So they'll grow up year by year. There is no intention at this stage to leap forward, just because the only reason that would happen is if there was some way, people weren't happy with the way the story is developing as it is. To me, the beauty of it is that we get to see the real psychological progression, and we're not playing these kids. Well, obviously we're playing them as kids, but it's an adult show with adult themes. It's about someone who's lost his parents, and we'll play that for the reality of that, which is dark and tragic and horrible. And that's why it's so great to have we needed a genuinely great actor to play Bruce Wayne, and David is a genuinely great actor because he's a kid playing with adult themes. It's not a kid in a kid's show. It's a kid in a show about what happens when adult shit happens to a small kid. And Batman must have been crazy at some level, and it's a very dysfunctional, odd thing to want to do. So you can't play him as some kind of, it's not Adam West as a young man. It's someone much darker and more troubled.
Obviously, the King of the Rogues gallery in Gotham is the Joker. Can you talk about how you were thinking about approaching that character?
Yeah, he is the King of the Rogues gallery, the crown jewel, and similarly with how we're going to wait and get the show up and running and get it right, tonally right and sort of story-wise right, and then we'll start thinking about how to bring him in. We will certainly try and surprise people and maybe even trick people with, because that obviously one of those expectations that we understand everyone will be waiting for. So you can't just present the guy, with a big smile and start telling that story, because no, it's not that would be dull. It would be fascinating, but that's one of those opportunities to really start playing. So there will be probably there will be two or three people you think, oh, that might be him or that might be him, and it will be the one you don't expect.
You mentioned the psychological element, so I've heard, you said noir and there's action and there's crime. Do you see it as being also heavily like psychology is going to play a part in seeing how these villains especially develop into what they're going to be?
Yeah, absolutely. Because to me that's exactly the beauty of the Batman universe, is that no one was bitten by a radioactive spider, or some people fell into radioactive gook, but really their villainy stems from very specific pathologies and histories, and everyone's, nobody does anything that is not psychological. That's the definition of it. So yeah, it's much more about, or rather the seed of all the action is psychology. Then of course we're in a slightly larger than life universe. For instance, in the third episode, one of the villains dispatches his victims with weather balloons, which is like, all right, yeah, that's tough psychology. His mother abused him with weather balloons or something. I don't know. But on the other hand, there's psychology, and then there's the DC universe, which has to be. That's the whole point. It's better than our universe. It's poppier. It's more fun. It's both darker and more bleak, and also more exciting and more attractive.
One more question for you about the setting. Are you also creating the pop culture in that, like in terms of how what the characters in the world are reacting?
Yeah, exactly. Very much so, because, like say, Batman didn't pop out of his own head. He had a whole history and a pop culture of seeing that would work. Of gangsters who sort of like 20 Chicago, who were public figures, who could walk the streets and project themselves. That theatrical element is part of the Gotham world, where everyone is their own star, their own show. That's very much part of our world, and the streets are full of people. The buildings are lively. The nightlife is happening, and people are reading the newspapers and watching TV. So yeah, it's very much about the culture of that world that led to that.
The mystery of Bruce Wayne's parents and what happens to them, obviously there's different. The Joker did it in one version, Joe Chill in another. Is that a big mystery that you're going to be spreading, you're going to be taking a while to get to the bottom of?
Yeah, and I'm just sort of considering whether ultimately it's hard to know whoever gets to the bottom of anything. To me, it's a bit like who killed JFK. You can get to the bottom, and then there's a false bottom under the box. Now, I don't have any, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Coleman is a big conspiracy theorist. He'll tell you who really shot JFK. But I don't think you ever find out who, it's sort of like the hunt for Moby Dick.
Something that drives.
Something that underlying. We won't be going there every week because every week failing to find out who killed his parents, we get a bit, really? They're still looking? They should look harder. But it's the kind of the current underneath it that sets everything in motion.
Lovely. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.